The pot nearly flew that evening. Nearly. Adeaze did not plan to say it. It came out the way things come out when a person has been swallowing something for too long. Fast, clean, and with absolutely no return policy. She had been standing at that stove since 4 p.m., 4 in the afternoon. After coming back from work where her boss had spoken to her like she was furniture, after stopping at the market where the tomato price had genuinely made her see her late grandmother briefly, after carrying 2 bags up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator in their building had been under repair since 2023, she had cooked. She had cooked well. The egusi was correct. She knew it was correct. She had tasted it 4 times. The stockfish was soft. The meat was seasoned from the inside out the way only a woman who takes cooking personally can season meat. She had served him. He had tasted it. He had done the thing with his face, the slow chew, the slight frown, the theatrical pause of a man on a cooking competition judging panel, except this was not a competition, and nobody had asked him. This soup has no taste. And something in Adeaze, 3 years of something, simply stood up, straightened its clothes, and walked out of the room that had been keeping it. Neither does this marriage, but I'm still here. The silence that followed was the loudest thing that had ever happened in their flat. Emeka put his spoon down. He looked at his wife. His wife looked back at him with the calm of a woman who has just surprised herself and has decided to stand behind it. What did you say? You heard me. Adeaze. Emeka. He pushed the plate. She pushed it back. Eat your food, she said. The soup has taste. You have a problem, not the soup. He stood up. She did not move. I'm not hungry, he said. That's fine, she said. I am. She sat down at the table. She served herself. She ate. Right there in front of him, standing with his arms folded, trying to look like a man with authority. She ate the soup that had no taste, and it tasted, for the record, exceptional. He watched her eat for 30 seconds. He sat back down. He pulled his plate back. He ate. Neither of them said a word. But everything had been said. The thing about Emeka was that he had never been shamed to say thank you to a woman. Not because he was evil, because nobody had taught him. He had grown up watching his father eat his mother's food and stand up from the table the way you stand up from a bus stop. The bus came, you boarded, you left. That was the transaction. No ceremony, no acknowledgement. The food simply appeared, was consumed, and life continued. He had imported this system into his marriage without inspecting it at the border. And for 2 years, Adeaze had been receiving this system with the patience of a woman who believed people could change, who loved her husband genuinely, who was also beginning to understand that love without maintenance was just a feeling slowly dying in a house that smelt like egusi. The complaints were the part that got her. Not even the absence of thank you. The presence of always finding something wrong. Too much salt, too little salt. The chicken is dry. Why is the chicken soft today? Is something wrong with it? This stew tastes different. The last stew was better. Why are you making the last stew again? I'm tired of that one. A full cycle, a complete circle of impossibility. She had told Chioma. Chioma said, describe this man to me physically. What? He's tall, Does he look like a man who could survive 1 week of cooking for himself? Adeaze paused. No, she said honestly. Then that, Chioma said, is your weapon. Adeaze stopped cooking on a Monday. No announcement, no letter, no dramatic breakfast table speech. She simply woke up, made tea for herself, and went to work. Emeka came downstairs and looked at the kitchen. Clean, quiet, no pot on fire, no smell of anything. He looked at Adeaze's cup in the drying rack. He made himself tea. Day 1. He bought food outside. She knew because she found the takeaway pack in the bin, and it was from a place that charged too much for rice that she could have made better in her sleep. Day 2. She came home to find him on the phone with his mother, describing the situation in a low voice that stopped when she walked in. She greeted him cheerfully. He greeted her back carefully. Day 3. Indomie. She heard it from the bedroom, the boiling, the seasoning packets, the specific aggressive stirring of a man cooking noodles with the energy of someone who had things to prove but had been handed very limited tools. She put her earphones in. Day 4. He came to find her. She was watching something on her phone, lying on her side of the bed, unbothered. Ade. You're not cooking. Very correct. Why? She took out one earphone, just one. The other stayed in. This was intentional. This was a woman giving a conversation exactly half of her attention and being transparent about it. Emeka, when last did you eat my food and say it was delicious? Specifically, give me a day, give me a meal, give me one time. His mouth opened, his mouth closed. Because I can tell you the last time you told me something was wrong. The crayfish, the onion, the chicken, the stockfish, the tomatoes. Should I continue? I'm just giving feedback. You are not my supervisor, she said, putting her earphone back in. When you remember how to be my husband, come and tell me. I will cook the best meal of your life. Until then, she gestured at the kitchen. You know where the gas is. She went back to her program. He stood in the doorway for a full 10 seconds. Then he went back to the kitchen. He heard him open the Indomie cupboard. She turned up her volume.
Emeka's mother called Adaeze and said, "A good wife cooks for her husband." Adaeze said, "Yes, ma, and a good husband appreciates it. We are both learning." The line went so quiet, Adaeze checked if the call had dropped. It had not dropped. The woman was just processing. Mama Nwosu called on day 6. Adaeze had been expecting the call the way you expect rain in June, not knowing exactly when, knowing absolutely it was coming. My daughter. "Mama, good evening, ma. How are you? How is the house?" "Fine, ma, we are fine." A pause. The pause of a woman loading. Emeka says, another pause. "He says you have not been cooking." "Ah, mama." Adaeze's voice was warm, gentle, completely immovable. "I have been very tired. Work has been stressful." "But a wife must." "Mama," Adaeze said sweetly, "when you were cooking for Papa every day, how did it feel when he never said thank you? Not once." The line went so quiet that Adaeze pulled the phone from her ear to check the signal. 4 bars, full network. Mama Nwosu was simply standing somewhere, holding her phone, having a private experience. Mama started, stopped. "That is how men are." "It was how Papa was," Adaeze said gently. "It doesn't have to be how Emeka is. You raised him. You can tell him better." Another silence. "I'll talk to him," Mama said, quietly, differently than before. "Thank you, Mama. Greet Papa for me." She hung up. She went back to her program. Emeka's cooking era lasted 11 days and produced the following. Indomie on 6 separate occasions, each one slightly worse than the last, in a way that suggested he was not learning from experience, but rather accumulating noodle trauma. Rice, once. She had seen the aftermath. The pot had been soaking in the sink for 2 days because the bottom had caught, and he had made the classic error of adding more water to a burn situation, which had created a new and more complex problem. Fried eggs, on 3 occasions. The eggs were fine. She would not take that from him. The man could fry an egg. This was, as far as she could determine, the full outer limit of his kitchen capability. Bread and groundnut, twice. Not cooking, existing. On day 9, she had come home to find him on the phone with his younger brother Chidi, who apparently also could not cook but had strong opinions about it, and she had heard him say in a very low voice, "Just tell me how to make stew, basic stew, from the beginning." She went to the bedroom. She put the pillow over her face. She laughed until she had tears. Day 11, he knocked on the bedroom door. She was reading. "Come in." He came in. He sat on his side of the bed. He was quiet for a moment with the specific quiet of a man organizing something he's not practiced at saying. "Ada, Emeka." He stopped. Tried again. "The thing is," stopped again. She waited. She was good at waiting. "I've been eating rubbish for 11 days, he said. She pressed her lips together. "And I know that's not," he exhaled. "That's not the point. I know the point is not the food." "What is the point?" she asked. "The point is that you cook every day, and I eat, and I say what is wrong, and I never..." He looked at his hands. I never say what is right. The bedroom was quiet. Outside, their neighbor's child was crying about something. Life was happening normally everywhere. Emeka, she said carefully, do you know what it does to a person to work hard at something every day and the only feedback they ever get is what they did wrong? He was quiet. It makes you feel invisible, like the good things you do are just expected, like they don't count, like only the mistakes are worth noticing. He looked at her. You made me invisible, he said. Every day, with a small comment, nothing huge, nothing you could point at, just, she gestured, consistent, every day, something wrong. He nodded slowly. He was receiving it, really receiving it, not defending, not explaining, receiving. I'm sorry, he said. 2 words. Not a speech, not a list of promises, not a grand gesture. Just, I'm sorry. And in his voice, flat, quiet, entirely sincere, she could hear him mean it the way a person means something they have just genuinely understood for the first time. She reached across and held his hand. Go and have a bath, she said. I'll cook. Emeka, you don't have to. Emeka, she squeezed his hand once. I want to. That's different from being expected to. He looked at her. That's the difference, she said. You understand? He understood. He went to have his bath. She went to the kitchen. And she cooked with the kind of joy that comes back when something has been returned to you. Not the mechanical cooking of obligation, the real cooking, the kind where you taste as you go and you're already thinking about his face when he eats it.
Part 3. Emeka tasted the egusi, put his spoon down and said, Ada, this is the best thing I have eaten in my life. Adaeze said, I know. I've been making it for 3 years. He had no answer. There's no answer to that. There will never be an answer to that. He ate 3 plates. 3. She counted. Not obviously. She was eating her own food, talking about other things, being normal. But she counted. First plate, fast. The eating of a man who has been surviving on noodles and shame for 11 days. Second plate, slower. The eating of a man who is now actually tasting. Third plate, he served himself quietly, without asking, without comment, and ate it with the focus of someone trying to understand something. When he finished, he sat back. He looked at the pot. He looked at her. Ada, this is the best thing I have eaten in my life. She put her spoon down. She looked at him. She said, I know, I've been making it for 3 years. The dining room went very still. Emeka sat with those words. You could see him sitting with them, rolling them around, feeling the full weight of what they contained. 3 years. This exact quality of food, available in his house, at his table, every week. And he had spent those 3 years reviewing it like a man who deserved better. I have been a fool, he said, not looking for sympathy, just stating a fact he had finished investigating. You have had a learning curve, Adaeze said diplomatically. I have been a fool, he repeated firmly. He was not accepting the diplomatic version. She picked up her spoon again. The crayfish comment, he said. That first time, the pepper soup? Yes. There was crayfish. There was plenty crayfish. I knew there was crayfish, he said. I don't know why I said it. She looked at him. I think, she said slowly, that you didn't know how to say it was good, so you found something to say instead. He stared at her. That, he stopped. That is possibly correct. Your father, my father. Same system, he said quietly. I imported it without checking what was inside. They sat with that. Outside, life was doing its evening things. A generator humming somewhere, music from the flat upstairs, the ordinary soundtrack of their ordinary life that was, right now in this kitchen, becoming something different. The budget, he said. Different direction, same conversation. She waited. Show me everything. What the house actually costs, not the adjusted version, not the version you edited so I wouldn't complain, the real one. She looked at him carefully. You sure? I'm sure. She got up. She went to the bedroom. She came back with her phone and opened the notes app where she had been keeping for 2 years, quietly, privately, a running record of what she spent versus what he gave. She placed the phone in front of him. He scrolled. The expression on his face moved through several countries. He saw the monthly shortfalls. He saw the amount she had been supplementing from her own salary. He saw the months she had marked in red. He saw the note she had written to herself 18 months ago that said simply, "Don't fight about this. Find another way." "Adaeze," he said. "Emeka, you have been paying part of this house." "I have." "From your own?" "Yes." "For how long?" "Open the first page." He scrolled back. He saw the dates. He put the phone down. He put his face in his hands. Not crying. Emeka was those man who cried easily, and this was not that moment. It was the posture of a man sitting inside the full picture of something for the first time and finding it larger and heavier than he had imagined. "Why didn't you tell me?" he said into his hands. "I told you 3 times, she said gently. "You said things are hard everywhere and asked about the crayfish I bought." He lifted his face. "I asked about the crayfish. You asked about the crayfish." He looked at the ceiling. "God," he said. "He was watching," Adaeze agreed. The Sunday reminder was the thing that finished her. She had not been snooping. She had picked up his phone to check the time, and the screen had lit up with a notification. A reminder, recurring, every Sunday, 9 a.m. It said, "Tell Ade something specific about the food. Not just nice, specific. Don't forget." She read it twice. She put the phone down exactly where she had found it. She walked to the bathroom. She ran the tap so he wouldn't hear her. And she stood over the sink and laughed and cried at the same time, the specific emotional combination that only a person who has been through something and come out the other side can produce. Because this man had sat down with himself and identified his own failure and built a system around fixing it. Because the words didn't come naturally, and he knew the words didn't come naturally. And rather than accept that as a permanent condition, he had made himself a reminder. Not just nice, specific. He had written that to himself. He had coached himself. She splashed water on her face. She looked in the mirror. She looked like a woman who was going to go back out there and make breakfast and say nothing and watch her husband try. She went back out. He was at the table. She made eggs the way she always made them, the way he had eaten them for 3 years without comment. She served them. He looked at the plate. "Ade," he said. "These eggs, the way you do the pepper in them," he tasted. "It's always right, every time. I don't know how you get it right every time." She sat down across from him. "Practice," she said, "and caring about the outcome." He looked at her. She looked at him. The reminder had reminded him. He had said it, and it had landed, not because it was perfect, not because it came naturally, but because he was trying, visibly, clumsily, with a phone reminder and a coached instruction to be specific. He was trying. And trying, she had decided, was where love actually lived. Not in the grand moments, in the Sunday morning reminders, in the peeled oranges that appeared on the good plate, in the man who had written, "Don't just say nice" to himself because he wanted to do better and had no other tools. The housekeeping conversation happened on a Friday night. He had come home with his journal, the small one he used for projects, and a pen. He sat across from her at the kitchen table and opened to a blank page. "Tell me everything," he said. "What the house costs, all of it." She looked at the journal, at the pen, at her husband in his reading glasses looking at her like she was a meeting he had come prepared for. She told him. He wrote it down. He did the maths himself. She watched his pen moving, the addition, the comparison with what he had been giving her. She watched his face do the arithmetic of accountability. He doubled the budget, nearly tripled it in some categories, and added a line at the bottom and wrote, "Ade, personal." not for the house, and put a number there that made her sit up slightly. That's yours, he said. Not for tomatoes, not for the house, yours. Ade, he said. I've been treating this house like it runs on air and your goodwill, he said. I want to fix it properly, not once, every month. She looked at the journal, at the number with her name next to it, at her husband who once debated the price of tomatoes in the market and made her stand there in the middle of the noise while he negotiated 50 naira off like it was a victory. Who are you? She said. He almost smiled. I've been asking myself the same thing. What happened to you? 11 days of Indomie happened to me, and a wife who told me the truth and didn't leave while I was learning it. She pressed her lips together. Don't, he said quickly, seeing her face. Don't cry, or I will also cry, and then we will both be sitting here crying over a housekeeping spreadsheet, and I cannot recover from that. She laughed instead. He reached across the table. She gave him her hand. Outside, their neighbor's generator started up. Somewhere upstairs, a door closed. The evening settled over their street the way evenings do. Ordinary, unhurried, indifferent to the fact that inside this flat, something that had been broken for 3 years had just quietly been repaired. Chioma came on Saturday. She arrived with the energy of a woman who wanted full information and would not be leaving without it. So, she sat down. She accepted her mouth. So the stingy, complaining husband, report. Adiaze smiled into her glass. He peeled my orange this morning, put it on the good plate, left it on my side of the bed. Chioma stared. And yesterday, he told me my jollof was the best he had eaten since his mother's. She paused. He was specific about the smokiness. He used the word smoky. Smoky? Chioma repeated. Smoky. This is the same man? Same man. Same man who said your onion won? Same man. Chioma sat back. She looked at her best friend, at Adiaze, who was sitting in her own home in the evening light, looking like a woman who had fought for something quietly and won it without making it a war. How? Chioma asked, simply. I didn't shrink. I didn't fight, and I didn't shrink. She thought about it. I stayed myself all the way through, and I made room for him to come and find me there. Chioma was quiet. And he came, she said. He came, slowly, with a phone reminder and 11 days of terrible noodles and a journal with my name in it. She smiled, but he came. Chioma raised her mouth. Adiaze raised hers. Outside, the evening continued its business. Inside, the pot was on the fire. And for the first time in 3 years, nobody was going to find anything wrong with it.